All right, Castle Soul, or Eclipse
Yeah, I
Castle,
was
or
saying
whatever
something,
it's
but
called.
I got distracted by the game being weird, and I forgot what I was even going to say before. Didn't matter.
Kadokawa Bloodborne.
And yeah.
Does that ring any bells?
You're
Vaguely.
You were like,
Rings
speaking
are
of the
on the
Kadokawa
two
merger,
bells.
Bloodborne
Yeah.
network test, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
It's
came and
gone.
went.
All right, well,
The biggest result of the merger, John
Hello.
Bloodborne being added to Fortnite.
I
John Bloodborne in Fortnite.
I
Eileen the Crow.
Finally.
I think, you know, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about what Sony is doing with the Bloodborne IP, because I do have a little bit of like inside baseball knowledge of like how Sony works as a company, and like I will say that I think people are like a little bit more cynical about like how companies view their fans than is actually like real. Just because like Sony knows how popular Bloodborne is, like very distinctly. They have the exact sales numbers on how popular it is, and like how much
You mean like in terms of people thinking that Sony's just like ignoring the concept?
yeah,
of
they're
remaking
like
Bloodborne or
exactly. They're like,
re-releasing Bloodborne?
all we want is the Bloodborne remake, and they just don't listen. And it's like, no, that's not true. Like they are listening.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier this week on Satisfactory, where we're like, the extent to which Sony has not re-released Bloodborne at all screams they're doing something with Bloodborne.
Yeah, exactly. Like there is
Well, the
some
edging.
degree
Learn to
of
appreciate it.
he's just gonna blow himself up. Got him.
Like, with how frequently they're willing to just sell The Last of Us 1 again, do you think they would have sold Bloodborne 1 by now? Is it almost certainly they're like making something with it?
Well, one of the
the
things
same to me.
with that is that like we think of Bloodborne as like a massive success, and it was. Like Bloodborne was a pretty big integral step in FromSoftware becoming bigger on the main stage of like Sony IPs and stuff like that, but like
Yeah, but in mainstream terms, it's not like cataclysmic. It's
yes,
just like, okay,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, like
it's just influential and loud.
yeah, well, like the big thing about it is that when the Sony stuff leaked, when the Insomniac hack happened, Sony's internal sales numbers were leaked, so people could actually see the exact amount of money that these games made. And I'm not just talking about copies sold. I'm talking about like lifetime to date profit as of 2021 or 2022, I think. And like Bloodborne has only sold like 3 million copies, which is a lot of copies. But when you look at that,
But also, like, every time a Squeenix game comes out, if it doesn't sell 5 million copies, it's a failure.
yes,
failure. Yeah,
exactly.
yes.
And that's a decade ago when Tomb Raider reboot was happening, and they're like, it's a failure, it didn't sell 5 million.
Well, I mean, that is a good example of like that, but that's also a good example of just like Square Enix setting lofty expectations so that they can get investment.
Yeah, but also
I think
just potentially the scale of some of the stuff. It's like,
yeah,
like for context, like Rock Band 3, which was already past the hype
Mhm.
wave of music games, sold over 1 million copies.
yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say is like the thing that we need to be comparing it to is other games of its caliber, and like
Yeah.
people don't realize that like Dark Souls 3 has sold something like an absurd. It's like 25 million copies or something like that. Like it's just like
Dark Souls 3 sold way more than Dark Souls 1 and 2.
yeah.
It was a very, very
Just
successful,
surreal.
a much more mainstream game.
Yeah,
It's the weirdest thing about Dark Souls as a franchise is that each new game keeps selling more than all of the previous ones so
Yeah.
far, including like Elden Ring, which doesn't technically count, but
How did you
it
guys
keeps happening in like in a
get
confusing way where it
there?
feels like you would need to on ramp at the beginning in order to keep up with the bizarre difficulty curve of these games. But even though the games are escalating, each game keeps getting more popular, which is like counterintuitive.
How did you guys get up there? Did you just go up this elevator?
No, I didn't.
I took some stairs.
Oh, that's okay. I see. I'm in the area beneath you.
But yeah, like, as much as people bemoan the lack of Bloodborne stuff, it also feels like it might be of the same caliber as like when people bemoan the lack of like Mother 3 stuff. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
yes, Earthbound is super influential, but also it's not actually like this, like the stuff that's mega popular is almost quietly so, the way that like
Yeah.
Avatar is.
Yeah.
So people lose track of what's actually popular versus what they just are all talking about constantly.
Well, one thing I would say about that is like the big difference between a huge mega popular thing like Avatar and a thing that has like outsized mind share like Bloodborne is that Avatar sells copies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people saw those movies. They don't talk about them.
Blue Avatar.
Blue Avatar, yes.
Blue Avatar,
Avatar,
yes.
yeah.
So
James Cameron Avatar.
Yeah.
the thing
At this point, it's technically more accurate to assume that Avatar is the blue one than the
Last
cartoon
Airbender,
one because
yeah.
of the level of like scale it has.
the one wrinkle of like to consider with Bloodborne's popularity is that you wouldn't sure that like if they did anything like a sequel ever, which again I don't think it needs one and wouldn't necessarily want one, but like a sequel would sell better than the first Bloodborne.
Yes.
That's a guarantee. Just
People
with
have
how
now
all
heard
the
about
games came.
Bloodborne for
Yeah.
so long. They're like, oh, new Bloodborne game. I should check this one out.
Yeah, and with everyone and people who still haven't played the first Bloodborne but have come on board since Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring, there's just more eyes on these games now.
Yes. Yep.
But still, but you're absolutely right though. It doesn't sell as much as other games that like sell massive amounts.
Yeah.
So they're not. You can't really expect that, even if it's more successful.
One of
It's
the
not a
things
guarantee.
about that too is that like you have to factor that into any plans that they might have for the future, which is to say, if Sony wants to do something with the Bloodborne IP, they are trying
This poor
to
guy.
they are going to try to make the Bloodborne IP into a game that will sell as much as Elden Ring. And so that necessitates
That's
a longer
annoying.
development and stuff like that. I don't necessarily mean they're going to make it into an open world game or something like that. Just like the idea
No.
of
But just the idea, like, it has to, like, appeal to the Elden Ring audience is like a rabbit hole that I don't want to
Yeah.
down.
I don't know if they're trying to make it appeal to the Elden Ring audience, just the idea of like, we're going to put that level of marketing and polish into this game. Because like, as much as I love Bloodborne was like a weird niche art game project that happened to get funded and like was this passion partnership that had a return on investment and did well. But like, again, we're talking the difference between an A24 movie that's made on a small budget and makes a small profit versus like a Blumhouse horror movie that's made on a small budget but makes $50 billion, right? Like,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's this ghost here in the chapel. It says like, "Oh, frigid son of soul, cast life into these soulless bones." These people are like a weird death renewal cult. And lots of people believe that this is a faction that Mikola attempted to utilize to try and save Godwyn and revive Godwyn. But unfortunately, their attempts did not work. And we learn that over the course of this level. But there's also a legendary sword here called the Eclipse Shodel, storied sword and treasure of Castle Sol that depicts an eclipsed sun drained of color. One of the legendary armaments. In Sol, the sight of an eclipse inspires a dreadful awe, preventing the onlooker from averting his gaze. This has a Prince of Death Flame weapon art on it, which again is slightly different from other Death Flame and slightly different than Ghost Flame. So just another example of kind of weird death stuff involved in Godwyn, but also tied to Radagon, because again, the legendary armaments are associated with Radagon. So... But yeah, in the end, like, I am sure Sony's gonna do something with Bloodborne. They would be crazy to just sit on it, and I think most people agree with that. There have been lots of hints for a very long time that something is happening. There was the very credible NVIDIA leak that is just turning out to be more and more true that had a Bloodborne remaster listed on it. There was there's information out there that says that Bluepoint is working on something.
No.
So it could be that.
Yeah, I would expect probably a Bloodborne.
Blue Point's like, damn, this is a really gross game. We cleaned it up.
I'm not that worried about that.
It's complicated. I have a lot of criticisms with them, but a lot of them stem from wanting Demon Souls to be more like Bloodborne, which is just very poor choice for the aesthetic and vibe of the game. So there's definitely questionable decisions with the art direction, but again, a chunk of them came from wanting the game to be more like Bloodborne.
Yeah.
So it's like it just might be closer to their aesthetic that any
Yeah, that bird
departures or
exploded on you.
mistakes with art design, like I feel like those issues might be less common when they're working on Bloodborne.
My thing...
Maybe.
Oh, fuck. I got caught in the air.
Ow, the bird killed both of us.
Yeah.
Oh
my
God.
thing with that is that in as much as people dislike the art changes from the remake, and I also dislike them. I still think if the Demon Souls remake came out today and it was the only version of Demon Souls, it would look great and is still, like, its minor issues are so small that they don't impact me. And I think with regards to that, like, the outcry against the art direction of that game is the number one complaint about that remake. And not in a, like, subtle...
Well.
Yeah. Like, not in a subtle way.
So, I'm
Yeah.
team, I agree with a lot of the criticisms about it. I have a lot of pretty strong criticisms about the remake, but I am definitely team give them another chance.
Yes.
Like,
because
that's how I feel about it. Like, I think there's some things that I'm just unhappy with, but I think there's the opportunity they could do better.
Yes, exactly.
And I think they would be aware of the criticisms. Like,
Yeah.
sure, it happened with
Granted,
Shadow of the Colossus.
I was about
Yeah,
to say it
it's-
hasn't only happened once because Shadow of the Colossus.
No.
But the thing is that the Shadow of the Colossus remake changes are even more minor than the Demon Souls
Yes,
ones.
they're smaller than the Demon Souls ones.
So it's like...
I think about the Demon Souls thing is that, like, yeah, the remake would look good in a vacuum, but also in a vacuum, people would be like, oh, so it's just another Dark Souls.
Yeah.
It just looks like another Dark Souls.
I still think the Demon
remake
Souls...
made Demon Souls look Dark Souls 3, and those games are very aesthetically different.
I don't know. I still feel like the Demon Souls remake looks more Demon Souls than it does Dark Souls. It has a much different overall aesthetic, even in the remake, but I don't...
There are times I agree with that, and times not as much. But definitely, like, when you're in, like, Shrine of Storms or whatever, it feels like you're in Demon Souls.
Yeah.
In the remake.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, so when people talk about the art direction being off, I agree in a lot of specific cases. But some people talk about it like as if it's completely a complete abomination from start to finish, and that is not the case.
Yeah, only the soundtrack is.
But again, they wanted the soundtrack to be bigger and having
orchestral
and stuff like that, and it's like
it's
yeah.
orchestral and it's competent, but holy fuck, I think about the Demon Souls soundtrack a lot, and I don't even, like, notice the soundtrack of the Demon Souls remake while I'm playing it.
Yeah,
it's designed to fade in the background and barely affect the experience.
I really, really dislike what they did with the soundtrack, but again, like, I don't think they could make the same mistakes with the Bloodborne soundtrack. Like, I don't think it's possible.
Well,
like,
also because Bloodborne soundtrack is orchestrated already, whereas the Demon Souls soundtrack wasn't.
We decided the Ludwig song was too iconic. We decided to reuse the Bloodborne Beast song instead.
Right. There's a chance that they wouldn't even do anything. But they might even just remaster the original music and not redo the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, that's an actual possibility.
I think, especially with Bloodborne 2, one of the things about this that I have thought about is like I actually don't mind the Demon Souls remake soundtrack basically at all. It reminds me of listening to game music that I liked in a video game in a concert setting.
Duck,
which
Andrew.
Is kind of what it is. Like, now granted, when I want to sit here and listen to, like, Final Fantasy VII battle theme and I'm humming it, am I humming the Distant Worlds fucking orchestral violin version? Probably not. But
if you duck Andrew, he literally can't shoot you. He can't aim that low.
But, you know, I don't hate it when I hear it, right? And I think a lot of people have actually had that reaction to the Demon Souls soundtrack, because even though this is a complaint that I have heard from, like, hardcore Souls fans, I know a lot of people who also were like, oh my god, I love the new soundtrack. The orchestrations are amazing. And it's like, all right.
Some stuff is really well done in it.
Yeah.
Some stuff really is, like, the Flamelicker theme in the remake, if it was taken out of context, if you put it as an original song in another Souls game, it would actually be a very good boss theme. Yeah, it's actually really good. Like,
I just think, you know, again, I think the onus that a lot of people...
going in circles.
We are. There's a fog gate at the top of the elevator that we need to go to.
Yeah, the level loops around.
Damn it.
Also, everything respawned because someone rested.
Yep.
Yeah.
So...
Criminal.
One of the things I was going to say about the remakes is just... I don't want to be like the I told you so guy, but there have been like 6 remakes that people were dooming about in the past 2 years, where I was like, I don't know, I think they're going to be fine. Maybe we just, like, you know, voice our concerns sincerely and then, like, have faith that not everything automatically sucks because it's a remake. And then people are like, I don't know, you're just a shill, fucking cynical remake culture. No one has any new ideas. And then they come out and they're great and they're beloved. right? And so it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I think the Demon Souls remake, I understand the criticisms with it, and I also have some criticisms. Like, I don't like how green and lush and overgrown Boletarian Palace is. It's a small detail. I think it's a problem. I think it is a flaw. But I'm more happy that the Demon Souls remake exists than I am
Yes.
upset or think that it is a failure, right? And I think
Yeah.
that people need to be more cautious about how they talk about things, because the average person, when they hear the discourse, they go, oh, the discourse, Bluepoint, they make shitty remakes. The Demon Souls remake sucks ass and is terrible. And then that becomes the legacy of that
way
thing.
More nuance to
Yeah.
there's way more nuance to that.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, that's not what that is. Like, the fucking Demon
Dude,
Souls remake rules. Like, it's really
They
good.
They fixed the bow aiming.
Yeah.
There is no. You are a weird freak if you want to play like the PS3 version in that aspect. Like
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
the
game
fact that the
plays
original Demon Souls had Dynasty Warriors bows controls.
the game plays 99%
Bows
identically
controls.
to the original, but the changes they did made are unanimously an improvement.
Yeah. And
There's not one single thing with like how the game handles differently that's like a step back.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, they did some good things. There's good stuff in there.
And the little stuff that they added, like fractured mode and stuff, sure, it's not like a full fucking overhaul of the game like people wanted, but it's not offensive and it's cool. Like, it's cool that it exists,
fun.
right?
It's cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
The little
Yeah.
coin treasure hunt is kind of neat. Like, it's just,
Mhm.
Stuff like that is stuff that I think people need to consider when they talk about stuff like this too. Just because I think people genuinely don't realize the kind of damage that they do to like discourse by talking about things that have more nuance than a passerby will give them credit for. And that's this.
I don't know. I heard that the Demon Souls remake added pronouns.
Yeah.
Oh, did it? Okay. well,
I think.
No. Some people would actually complain because I think the game had body type B and A rather than saying like male or female. I think that's how it was done.
That was
so
that was a
people would
complaint.
probably
Yeah.
go,
You guys
People like
need
let
to
out
come up
stupid
the
shit.
elevator. That
What do you
you're-
mean?
I've
That's the same
never
thing.
found the
Just a
elevator. Oh,
different-
there it
It's
is.
right there. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I think it's really lazy when devs do that, but don't actually decouple anything else from it,
Like the voice.
like voice or the way NPCs refer to you in the third person.
Yeah.
yeah. It's fun. Dark Souls occasionally has gendered language with different voice acting lines.
Mhm.
It's not very common at all, but patches. You
Yeah.
know, if you play as a female character, yeah, I don't remember the exact dialogue differences, but it shows up.
Oh yeah, it's Niall.
Oh, it's
I forgot about
Niall.
this fight.
Oh man. Oh shit! Wait, he's gonna.
Big summon fight. Let's go.
Ooh, I thought I
gotten
had
the
my
summon
mimic out.
orders have.
Oopsie.
Oh, his guys do not take damage. Oh yikes! Oh yikes!
I beat
this summon has health.
I beat this
Yeah.
guy on my first try originally back in the day.
Yeah, I did too.
And I did
Yeah.
not realize that he was like a huge block for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Like,
apparently people have trouble with them. Oh my god, how much damage did he just take?
No, he's fun.
Was that
I don't think he
Steed?
was that hard, but no, he's cool though.
When people said he was, when I heard about him being a difficulty wall for people, I genuinely was like, who the fuck are you talking about?
What?
Oh, I got frostbitten.
I died a lot against the other version of him though.
And
The
the
one in
Rot Swamp.
Rot, in the
Yeah.
Rot Swamp.
O'Neill.
I had way more trouble with him, yeah.
Because remember, we had trouble with him too.
Great, yeah. Granted, I don't even know if I was playing him fighting him when you're supposed to, but it's just, he was there. I found him, so I was gonna fight him. That's basically what determined my difficulty curve. Is if it's there, I fight it.
Damn it,
As long as I don't fight my Albanarch. Ow.
I forgot some of his time.
Leave Latenna alone.
I died, but I only came in
oh
like
no,
two
the
flasks,
boss
so-
is on me.
Yeah.
You too.
I didn't notice him. Latenna, no! No!
I
Hit
need to
me,
remember
ow.
that I have heal from afar equipped so that I can heal you guys. I keep forgetting about it.
Is he still alive?
She's still alive for now. So she turns around.
He got bored with her.
Seem to keep doing damage. She doesn't turn around in that direction. Okay.
Well, the snow's gonna do a lot of damage.
Keep doing Lieutenant damage.
If we each got a lieutenant in each
Ow!
corner, if we put lieutenant in each
no.
corner, that could do like it might pull out their own noise.
That would be
Drawing
funny.
patterns with lieutenants.
The tool lieutenants. Just put one on every corner of the map.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have a quad quad loop down is gone.
He still has a lot of health. This guy loves AoEs. No, stay away
Yeah,
from her.
But closing the door on the remake conversation here, like the thing that Illusory kind of picked up on is just like, again, I don't want to be the I told you so guy, but like I fucking told everyone so about Silent Hill 2, and like it is a literal game of the year contender. Like it's one of the best games of the year. Like
I'm so happy with Silent Hill 2, and I know Keith hasn't played it yet, so I'm not going to go into specifics. But I just want to say, like, they pull off something that a lot of remakes have trouble doing, which is like when you're playing a remake, sometimes it puts you in a different headspace where like this is a retelling. It doesn't feel like the original universe. The game has a way of feeling like canon.
Oh God.
yeah,
And I won't elaborate further on that, but it feels just as valid of a take as Silent Hill 2 as the original.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing to pull off.
It's
kudos to them for doing that.
God, it
yeah.
explodes a lot. So
it's
it's
just
really
really
bad
windshields.
cameraing to be locked on.
You can break windshields, yeah. The thing that I think of with the Silent Hill 2 remake, and this is something that I actually think video game remakes are like really bad at, is the Silent Hill 2 remake feels more like a film remake than a game remake I think ever has. And what I mean by that is like seeing the same film directed by two different people, but it's covering the same material. And I know a lot of remakes people think of, like film remakes especially, they're like, oh, these are unnecessary, like why do Japanese horror films need to get remade into English and stuff like that. And there are a lot of bad examples
Remakes,
but
sometimes there's great remakes though.
like, sometimes there are really great.
Everyone loves Old Boy.
Well, like the examples I think of are like
Thanos.
Let the Right One In was getting an American remake, and a lot of people were like, this is sacrilege, that movie's an amazing art film. And then Let Me In came out, and it was good. And like just this year there was Speak No Evil, which is based on a Danish film, and the remake of Speak No Evil is also really good. Like, and it's almost exactly the same as the original, but it's also really good. Then I mean, and that's
And then we have the Japanese remake of The Cube, which I hear is awful.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Yeah. Oh, these guys can teleport upwards? That's so weird.
They're weird.
Oh, that's not good.
Well,
I don't like
God,
that.
I don't remember how to navigate this level at all.
Oh, just follow me.
but then there was like just as an example, the fucking or the Suspiria remake, which is an excellent movie.
I still haven't seen that.
It's very different than the original. It's a completely different kind of movie, but it's still really fucking good. And then or another great example, and I think this is the one that's most similar to Silent Hill 2, is Funny Games. Funny Games came out in its original language, which was Austrian or German. Yeah. And then Hanukkah, the guy who made it, remade the movie in English, and it's just as good. It's almost the exact same movie. It feels slightly different.
Funny Games is very upsetting.
It is. It's really good. It's a great movie. But yeah, it's just a weird kind of example here of like, just, I don't know. That's what the Silent Hill 2 remake reminds me of, is like the American Funny Games versus the German or Austrian Funny Games or whatever, because it feels like the same game, but it's just newer and slightly different.
I couldn't see the elevator. It was invisible, so when people went up without me, I got trapped behind with all the mobs you dragged in.
Oh no.
Well, since everyone else is safe, I'm gonna rest at the bonfire and reset mobs.
Do it, yes. I don't know. I think I don't really have any strong opinions about remakes. Like, I think it's just a game, right?
Yeah.
I look at it like the two cakes meme, where I'm like, cool, now I just have the old game and the new game.
Yeah.
But I also do, my only like side complaint is that I really wish that if it's been enough time, I really wish that a remake would come with like a
version of the original
accessible copy of the original.
Yes, I was about to say like the really cool thing
Yeah.
Pathologic did is that like the developers of Pathologic were like, okay, our remake of Pathologic is rapidly diverging from the original, so we're gonna port the original also.
Yeah.
So they released an updated translation and updated port of the original game on the way to them also releasing Pathologic 2, which rapidly became like a sequel.
Is
instead
the
of
elevator down?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
it is still invisible.
I think if you just run into the center of it, you'll be fine.
Nope,
the
I
middle?
died.
You
That's
fell through it?
weird.
I fell through it. I'm gonna have to rejoin.
Okay. I'll banish everyone, and you guys can just come up. I'll just summon you back up here.
All right, we will.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'll get more. Yeah, I'll get
True.
more.
I took the leap of faith onto the invisible elevator, and it did not pay off.
Weird.
But yeah.
World is reopened.
Womp,
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm at this point where I'm so sick of like people, and this goes for positive reception too. I'm so sick of people like judging games, especially before they play them at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the thing is that part of the reason why I dislike it is because there is a way that you can do that, right? Like when I see that there is a new, I don't know, fucking Denis Villeneuve movie coming out, I don't go, this is going to be the movie of the year, but I go, he has a track record, and I look at the people making it, and I can say, okay, well, I can probably trust that this movie is going to at least be interesting to me, and I would like to see it. But I'm not sitting here going, it's the best thing ever, or it's the worst thing ever. But nowadays, the fucking Silent Hill 2 remake gets announced, and people are like, it's from Bloober Team, and these like fucking brain dead Germa meme watchers just go like, oh, it's Layers of Fear baby falling over. It's going to be the worst game ever. And I'm like, you guys are so stupid. Like, you don't have a brain.
The thing that felt funny to me about that is, as someone who hasn't played any of Bloober Team's previous games, I didn't know what to make of that discourse. So I saw what I thought
there is a
were, like,
longer
valid
history behind people being mad at them.
Yes,
It goes beyond Layers of Fear's baby meme and more like
that's what I was
like
gonna
a
say.
history of like questionable, like basically like plagiarism and like
Not-
also just a really shaky track record of games being any good.
The plagiarism thing is like kind of secondary to the overall discourse of like people not liking the medium and reading that game in like the absolute worst faith possible, and like things like that. And that's not even a defense of Bloober. Like I think their games are just okay at best. The game that a lot of people say is their best game is the one that I think is like actually one of their worst. Observer is terrible.
Yeah, Observer is pretty bad.
But like,
Observer's the only one I've played. I'm like, oh my god, every one of these scare sequences is like 3 times as long as it should be. To the point where I literally forget what the plot is or why I'm in here or what the themes are even supposed to be riffing on. I'm just like in a screensaver of random shit happening.
But like the thing that bothers me is the inconsistency with which people actually criticize things, which is to say people are like, Bloober's so bad at writing. The Silent Hill 2 remake is going to be bad. And I'm like, okay, but the Silent Hill 2 is already written, and they said they're going to do a super close remake, and they did. So if your issue is their writing, why do you why would you apply that to Silent Hill 2, a remake of a game that they said they're not writing majorly new content for? Like, that's not that's someone convincing themselves that their argument makes sense when it doesn't, in order to sound smart.
And minor aspects where it does differ are all very considerate and feel justified.
Yeah, they're all excellent.
So they actually did a really good job, is the funny part. Like,
all of the new scenes and changes in the Silent Hill 2 remake maybe make that game's story better. Like, it's that good.
It feels so like, even if the character has like a slightly different tone on delivery for like a certain line, like it feels like it makes sense in the universe.
Yes,
so they are not making bad choices aesthetically for the game at all. They were making great choices.
It's just It
passes that initial vibe check of like, did they understand and care about the vibe of the original game? And they clearly did. That's not in question. Like, things are always going to be different in the remake. Some people might prefer the fixed camera angles, and there's just certain aspects that the remake might not satisfy them with. But you can't take away the fact that, like, no, they understood the art direction.
The assignment, they literally knew what they were doing, And like, again, it is one of those things of like, people just taking something and like jumping to a really weird conclusion with it that drives me mad about this. Like, and again, to use the Demon Souls remake kind of discourse of like why we don't want Bloodborne is like, I think that a Blue Point remake of Bloodborne is likely not going to fuck Bloodborne up that bad, right? Like, because if you look at what Blue Point's actual ethos is, they make remakes based on the original code of a game. What actually matters, the game itself doesn't really change that much. And even if you look at the art direction changes of Demon Souls and really dislike them, it's really only like a handful of assets that are super meaningfully changed. So it's like, it's 98% fine. You know what I mean?
And again, And the
It was a
biggest
4 out of
changes are
5
making it
remake.
more Bloodborne-like, you know? So
Yeah. It's just one of those things where I think about it and I'm like, what math in someone's head makes them jump to the conclusion that
Once again comes down to just Grandpa.
people like losing their minds over something? You know what I mean?
I don't know. To me, it just feels like people people just not wanting something that they like or care about to change without
Sure.
even contemplating the idea of what that change could be.
I think that
Like
makes
a
sense.
change could be something. A change could be something as simple as like, hey, it doesn't run in except for 480p. That's potatoes. Can I make it bigger? Like, just
Yeah.
I don't know. Just any kind of change makes people so like skittish, and gamers feel almost like the change is going to be exclusionary to them. Like the goal of the change is to make it for an audience that is not them.
Yeah.
And so it's like instinctively like, no, don't remake it because then I'm no longer the target for, Elden Ring or whatever. Now it's for the kids. And it's like, no, man, just.
I think that's
it's for you.
true. I think a lot of people do view changes as like exclusionary tactics. And I don't think that's really,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the thing.
Games
is
aren't like that. That's just not, I don't know. That doesn't feel like what games are supposed to do.
There
The goal of
is-
games is that it's more
There's
accessible,
also
more playable.
an impetus to have an opinion on everything, so
Yes.
you can feel like you're
That's
part
true,
of the
yeah.
conversation. So people will just dogpile onto the meme, and that is their opinion.
That becomes the discourse.
True,
Yeah.
That feels more real on social media though than it does on like just that kind of like pure visceral reaction immediately.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
like don't change anything. Where it's like I can understand once you see it, right? Once the actual discourse machine starts brewing, where it's like, oh, now we found a real thing we can be mad about. Let's get it going, guys. Like that's when it starts feeling like, okay, guys, take a side.
Yeah,
we all
yeah,
have to
yeah.
get in the line.
It's just like, it's so
but no,
tiresome to me.
yeah.
It just doesn't seem like it's going to benefit the medium as a whole. So
Yeah.
why bother doing it? Like this kind of outrage doesn't actually generate the kind of media you want. Like, right?
Yeah.
You scare Sony from making a Bloodborne remake. So they just Dragon Horde it? They're not going to just go out and remake, like give you the original game on the PS5 as a complacency. They're just going to be like, yeah, I guess no one wants Bloodborne. Fuck Bloodborne. And just walk away from it. Like, no harm to them, right? Like, just,
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's the persistent idea that if you are making a thing I don't like, then you are wasting time and resources you could be using to make a thing I do.
Yes.
I was
Yeah.
gonna
But
get to
then
that. If
someone
people-
else is going to say that's a waste of time because they don't want a remake on that. Like when does
Where
the
is
chain end? Essentially,
Where's Andrew?
Yeah. Where are you?
I got lost on an elevator. It's fine.
Go
Just having a
back to
moment.
the rooftop and then go the other direction. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
do think that's it. Is like this idea of like, well, they're not doing what they could be doing. It's like this idea, like, oh, they spent time developing this thing. Why can't like it's like taking up the slot of another thing that could exist? And it's like that's not how game development
Yeah.
works. Like,
Right.
that's not how things
that's not how
happen.
a lot of things work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something to keep in mind with the Bloodborne remake is like, again, the Demon Souls remake is largely emulation to a chunk.
Yeah.
It's not a full ground up remake. It runs the code of the original game.
Yeah, it
It was,
parses
like,
the
imported.
code.
Yeah, it was imported into their new and converted to their engine somehow.
It's closer to like
and
the what are they called? The Kex engine games, like the System Shock enhanced and all those things. Like it's much closer to that than anything else.
And so like even with some missteps with the Demon Souls remake, it's like the way I look at it, it's like Bluepoint made a FromSoftware engine converter.
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
let
a
that
source
sink in for a
port.
second.
Yeah.
That is cool as fuck. Like that is cool as shit. So like that based on
yeah.
that merit alone, I want them to have another chance. 'Cause I'm like, nothing to use. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I might be mad at
And
like certain
it's-
design changes, but like I do still want to see it used.
Yep.
You know?
Also, you can't just expect like I don't know perfection every time. Like
Yeah.
there will always it's never like the exact same group of people making a video game either. Like people come and go, people change, and like when those changes come with their own unique mistakes they can possibly make. It's just the human experience. Like chill out, dude. Like
Someone
fuck,
speak
man.
to this ghost because my interaction is disabled.
Oh, I thought we were waiting for us to all get here.
No, I just can't. I can't talk
Lord
to them.
Mikola, forgive me. The sun has not been swallowed. Our prayers were lacking. Your comrade remains soulless. I will never set my eyes upon it now. Your divine halleck tree.
Yep.
Oh.
So Mikola clearly wanted Godwyn to be alive again for some reason, possibly for use with the Halig tree or as an icon of the Halig tree, but it kind of went nowhere. So yeah, I guess they're screwed. But yeah, we got the Halig tree medallion. Cod, did you grab the medallion while you were up here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think, do we have both pieces of it? Can someone look in their inventory to see?
Let's take a look.
I have Heltrig left.
We do, yeah. We have the left and right.
All right, so now we can find our way to the Halig tree. So that's cool, and we should probably work on doing that.
Time for the nightmare boss.
Yeah, we get to fight Millennia. This is gonna be wacky as fuck.
First, we want to do Freezing Lake while we're here.
Yes, we should do that because that is what leads to the Halig tree, I believe. Or it's across the freezing lake.
Freezing Lake is one of those parts of the base game where, like, before the DLC updated multiplayer so that you could toggle off summoning pools, like, this was just such an annoying dragon fight to keep getting summoned to. The host would never survive the fight.
Yeah.
It was so, you would spend so long in there only to lose, like, every time. I did a lot of co-op. I helped dozens and dozens of people take down the fire giant. Like, I did a lot of co-op there, but so yeah, you get summoned to the freezing lake sometimes, and that always sucked. So be thankful the game doesn't work like it did pre-patch, where you couldn't turn off summoning pools. That was a nightmare.
I can see you guys in the telescope.
Neat.
Let's open out the competition.
It's funny, like, they finally made decent-ish. There's still shortcomings and things they could do different from the ground up, but when you take how these games have their multiplayer design,
I don't think I'm loading.
It doesn't feel like they figured it out until Elden Ring. The matchmaking in all the older games has so many horrible quirks, where it's like, why can't you just invade across the whole game? And, like, a lot of common sense things Elden Ring finally allows.
Open my world back up after banishing everyone. Keith, you should be able to get back in now.
I'm coming. There we go. That said, when are we getting an Elden Ring remake? Because I'm getting kind of bored with this one.
All in the tooth.
I'm back. You're stuck with
Wait,
me.
are we going to the frozen lake? Wait, where?
Yeah, we're going to the Frozen Lake. We just started,
Oh,
right?
okay.
They need to remake this game every year so it's eligible for the Game Awards every year.
I love Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm very shocked that they. I mean, the thing is that they've done this before. Like I believe, The Witcher 3 DLC was like,
Blood and Wine.
yeah, was the original Game of the Year winner, like literally from like the first TGA. So it's like, and people weren't up in arms about that. They weren't freaking out, but like,
Well, they forgot about it.
yeah. Well, I don't even think they forgot. It just wasn't an issue back then. But because it's Elden Ring, people are really mad because
It might also be the thing that if that was the first year, then The Witcher 3 base game hadn't won one yet.
yes,
So
exactly.
People might have been more forgiving of it and lumping its success in with how they voted for the expansion.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That is exactly
God.
what happened. There it is. I don't remember this
I
fight.
can't wait for when the Naruto DLC of Fortnite wins Game of the Year.
Every DLC for Fortnite gets its own Game of the Year contender.
They got that Godzilla DLC in a couple weeks, so that'll do it.
Oh, damn.
This fight is very...
How does Godzilla use a gun?
I don't know, but he can also wear Nikes.
Did you hear he can wear Nikes?
Yeah, they added that as an item type recently, as a cosmetic you can purchase due to a deal with Nike.
What? I don't understand anything anymore. they have to put that in the contract for every previous DLC sale. Like, by the way, when your anime character gets put in this game, they might wear Nikes one day.
Yeah, right. There are some that can't,
you-
and I assume it is because of contractual reasons.
I missed. God damn it. I randomly got seppuku in the middle of that, so my buttons got fucking turned off there. God damn
Did the
it.
dragon breath kill a beetle?
Probably.
Yeah.
God damn it. It's frustrating.
That's really fun.
That's funny as hell.
I was in the middle of rolling and jumping and fucking suddenly stopped moving. Shit.
Oh, I keep missing him. Oh,
Ow,
he's
stop
gonna get
it. Wendell has to break his own feet to wear Nikes.
Oh
really
no, I
tragic.
don't want to see that.
Who took your beans away? Who did this?
Who did this to my boy?
Nike. Oh, he just dies.
Something I'll be curious to see with regards to From and Souls.
Ow!
Like Dark Souls 1. Like that will get a remake at some point, right? But how we're gonna get there is kind of interesting. It's like, would Bluepoint do it? Obviously, they're Sony.
And will this one also
So-
wipe the previous version out of existence?
I wonder, and I think my take is different than yours.
I think I feel like it'll happen eventually, but I think that there's more barriers there, and there's obvious reasons that like it wouldn't be likely like a Bloodborne one is. But it seems like it's such a landmark title that I feel like
Poisoned?
the allure for someone to
Black
say like,
Flame?
hey, we gotta remake
damage
this.
is going down. That health is going down rapidly.
Lots of black flame.
I feel like it feels like something inevitable, but it just might not be that soon.
Yeah, so in my perspective, I think that you're correct that one day we will get a Dark Souls remake. I think that it will
20th
be
anniversary is coming up.
And see, I think it will be closer to like the 40th anniversary is when we'll get it. I do not think it is. Yeah, I don't think
When
we're.
I'm 60 years old.
Yes, like I don't think it's coming
Oh
out.
my god.
I don't think it's coming
You
out
gotta keep
anytime
those fingers
soon.
nimble.
I think, and I think there's two reasons for it. The first reason is because FromSoft proper owns Dark Souls, right? They own it, not Kadokawa, not other partners. It is a IP owned by FromSoftware. Like even with the Kadokawa partnership that they have, Kadokawa only owns 70% of the company. That is a majority stake, but that's like a shareholder thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that Kadokawa can just be like, all right, we're going to do Dark Souls now, right? Like it's like a board of directors, shareholders type situation. So I think that a Dark Souls remake only happens if and when FromSoft wants it to. And
Right.
they have moved on from the Souls games. And specifically, like we got a Dark Souls 1 remaster. So I
That's
don't
the other thing too. It's been available more recently in its lifespan. Where
Yeah.
Demon's Souls was like a weird old thing.
Exactly. I just like people are still playing Dark Souls. Dark Souls is still out there. Granted, like again, we live in a world where the Silent Hill 2 remake just came out and people have been playing Silent Hill 2 forever. You know what I mean? So like that's the thing, sure. But I think Dark Souls is a historic enough title that it occupies a different space. And I can't think of any other FromSoft games that have gotten remakes. Can you? Like a Togi isn't getting a remake, you know what I mean? Like fucking
Enchanted Arms
It
HD.
seems like they would want to wait more generations.
Yes, yes.
To do it. Yeah, it definitely feels that way. Yeah, it doesn't feel like something happened.
Uploading.
First Church of America. I think this one's interesting because it's titled the First Church of America, which implies that this is where the religion kind of originated, which is odd because we know the Land of Shadow is much further south from this. So
Could it be like real life where
Maybe they
lots of
just
churches
lie.
name themselves first?
I don't know because the rest of them here are numbered.
It's the original Mel's.
There's a conversation with Melina.
We don't have an Andrew.
Yeah, my loading wasn't working, so I'm restarting the game.
Oh, sorry.
Spoken echoes of Queen
Oh,
Marika
I can upgrade flasks.
linger here as well. Shall I share them with you? In Marika's own words, hark, brave warriors. Hark, my lord Godfrey. We
Last charge is
commend
already at
your
maximum.
deeds. Guidance hath delivered ye through each ordeal to the place ye stand. Put the giants to the
I felt so
sword
betrayed when I
and
found out that
confine
the original
flame
Mel's was not
atop
actually the
the
original
mount.
Mel's.
Let a new
They're just all called
epoch
that.
begin.
They're not.
An epoch
uh,
glistening with life. Brandish.
There's an explanation for that makes sense. Give me a
for the
moment.
age of the
Yeah.
Erd.
So Mel's split off into two different companies. So now there are restaurants called Mel's Diner, and the restaurants that are called the original Mel's Diner are the Mel's Diner that were owned by the original company that made Mel's Diner. So they have
those are the
separate
original
menus.
Mel's
They're two different. It's like Burger King and then Burger King, like if Burger King had a spin-off restaurant called Burger King Remix.
Hungry Jacks.
That's the difference.
We're almost there. The flame of ruin lies just ahead.
Wasn't there like a
glad it was
McDonald's thing
you
like that?
I
Where there was the
travelled with.
original McDonald's
must tender
store,
my
but that
thanks
was
to
separate from the
Torrent,
franchise,
too.
so it was
Yes.
Thank you.
like
Torrent.
the world's
Please
first
continue
McDonald's
to
or
live.
something,
It was-
and then everything else was like just McDonald's.
Till
I
the
think
end.
that first one was called McDonald's Hamburgers. Like, or
Okay,
it
that's
had
what
like
it
a
was,
name
yeah.
like that. It that separated it like legally. That's why one diner chain is called the original Mel's Diner, and the other one is just called Mel's Diner or Mel's Diner and Drive-In or whatever, because they're two
Yeah.
separate thing. Aegis Lord says, I thought the churches of America were numbered like crusade checkpoints, kind of like the Gelmir base camps. That was my thought, was that the Church of America proper didn't set up until the War of the Giants, because that was when America was trying to establish her domain proper as the one god, and she was hunting all the other gods. So, because there was a period where she wasn't the sole god of the Erd tree, basically. So I think that might be what happened here, is that this is the first church that was set up during the campaign against the giants. So that's kind of cool.